Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and this is my final video for the week. My final video for the week. I'll have more next week and the week after that, and so on and so forth until One Piece ends. Which, speaking of, today we are here to discuss our inevitable journey's end. Unfortunately, we are no longer in a position to dream of One Piece going on forever and ever and ever, which is sad, but it also brings a lot of excitement because there are several key massive things that we know about the end of the series, such as its timeline to completion, the events to take place over our final saga, and even one absolutely wild detail about Luffy that doesn't get spoken about anywhere near enough, not even by me. And I speak about lots of things lots of the time. So this video is here to serve as our definitive guide to the end of One Piece. And there's nothing more definitive than counting, so let's all count to 5 together right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The number 5 being quite key to this discussion because if you were to ask a general fan when they think One Piece is going to end, then chances are they're going to say something along the lines of thinking that the series will conclude in about 5 years. And interestingly, people have been saying that for about 2 years now, and that's because all of this 5-year talk spawned from an interview that Oda conducted in August 2019 with a YouTube channel named Fishers, which by the way, at the time they had close to 6 million subscribers, which is apparently the number we need to get to in order to secure an interview with Oda. And right now the number we have is not that. So please do contribute to the Eiichiro Oda interview fund by pressing this glorious button waiting tantalizingly over here. Plus doing so will also result in consistent injections of One Piece culture administered directly into your YouTube feed. In any case, during this interview, Oda was asked quite directly about the end of One Piece, and he said that he wants to end the series in 5 years. Now this was quite alarming at the time because it did seem very much within the realm of possibility. However, one thing that you will learn during your membership in the One Piece fandom is to never, ever trust anything Oda says that is time-based. Because for example, if this were true, then the series would be set to conclude in August 2024, which in the grand scheme of things is startlingly soon. However, this end date, just like Garp being a good parent, seems very unlikely. But this is an answer that Oda has been adamant towards because he did do another interview almost exactly a year later in 2020 with a boy band named Arashi, where he once again rather bluntly said that One Piece had about 4 to 5 years left. Now, of course, this information has been contradicted directly by an editor of One Piece by the name of Takuma Naito, who, with advanced knowledge of all of Oda's fun plans to come, quite loudly laughed at this time estimate. Sort of like this, ho 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 ho, and deemed it impossible to complete the task within 5 years. Which is a conclusion that is also supported by all available evidence, because here's the thing, 5 years, yes, that does sound like an awfully long time, but in terms of One Piece chapters, it really isn't. Since the year 2017, the series has had an average of about 37 to 39 chapters published annually, which is only enough to make up about 4 volumes. Which means that for One Piece to end within the next 3 years, according to the Oda timeline, then we'd have about 120 chapters left, and we are not even done with Wano yet, let alone ready to embark on a final saga. So it feels quite unlikely to work out that way. And the reason why I can say this so confidently is because of the fairly straightforward narrative details that we do know concerning the end of One Piece. The first of which is the concept of the final war. This is a destined event that has not really been foreshadowed, but actually very bluntly stated to be the climax of the series, both by Oda himself and within the very fabric of One Piece. But in terms of Oda, the first we heard of a final war was his message at Jump Festa 2018, and it actually came hand in hand with the famous lurking legend comment, which is why I think it often gets a little bit overshadowed, but Oda said the following: "By the end of next year, I'll be introducing one of the legends lurking in the world of One Piece to you. It's going to be the biggest enemy that Luffy and his friends have ever had, and it's going to be the one that will stand in front of us. Whitebeard may be involved." Oh, I've talked too much. The Summit War? Question mark. Can you believe that will end up looking cute? And whenever I hear this statement, I just picture like the entirety of Marineford dressed up in a schoolgirl outfit, and then Final War Senpai walks up to her and says, "How kawaii, Marineford-chan." But my twisted private and I guess now public thoughts aside, this is big stuff. Oda's messaging about a final war then became even more clear in the SBS of Volume 97, where the end of One Piece was addressed once more. Things are heating up in Wano country right now, but if Luffy can set sail from here safely, there will be developments on a a global scale. A thrilling story, the likes of which no one has ever read before. I'll draw the greatest battle ever in One Piece history. Which is hype as crap, but the thing that tells me the most actually comes from One Piece itself, specifically the words of Kozuki Oden in chapter 972. Over 20 years ahead of us, there will likely be a massive war, terrible enough to split the seas themselves. In other words, in another 20 years, the primary figures of this great war will muscle their way into the new world, which is clearly referring to Luffy and the Worst Generation, as well as any other primary figures like perhaps say Dragon, Buggy, and even alternate universe Pink Afro Gaimon. But these three statements together paint a very clear picture of a final battle of One Piece, the likes of which we have never seen before in One Piece. We're building towards the very conclusion of One Piece itself, which means it will be involving all of the threads we've constructed so far. Pirates, emperors, marines, revolutionaries, cipher poles, the Grand Fleet, and everything else that we've been working towards, all coming together in a big mush designed to pay off in this final saga. All of which is obviously very unlikely to play out in less than 120 chapters. And for some reference on that, the Dressrosa arc alone, not the saga, the arc, was 102 chapters. Although if we're looking at battle specifically, then even Marineford was 31 chapters long. So if Final War Senpai is meant to make Marineford-chan look cute, then it's almost certainly going to be a fair chunk longer, which takes up an awful lot of that available chapter real estate. But the Final War isn't even the only thing we know about the ending of One Piece. In fact, knowledge of that event isn't even the most explicit ending spoiler that we're aware of. And this next one has to do very likely with Luffy, and it comes from a curious comment Oda made as part of the One Piece 10th Treasures, a very cool special magazine designed to celebrate the 10th year anniversary of the series, which I actually went out and physically bought because I am old enough to have been able to do that. And just to show off, I also have the 10th anniversary edition of Shonen Jump, the one with Luffy's funky golden hat. But this is quite possibly the most intriguing public statement that Oda has ever made because it concerns the concept of eye patches. Now, if you're a casual One Piece reader or watcher, you may not have consciously noticed this, but there isn't a single pirate in the series that actually wears an eye patch, which is bizarre because it's easily the most stereotypical pirate-y identifying device of all time. And this is no accident because according to Oda, so have you noticed yet? Well, you probably haven't. That in One Piece there has not been one single pirate with an eye patch. Yes, I know, who cares, right? But this is my secret behind the scenes policy, which is already mysterious and tantalizing enough. But from here, Oda got into even more detail regarding why he has, or I guess why he had this secret policy. It's not secret anymore. But he went on to say, and with that thought in mind, it all began. The story of a normal looking boy's pirate story. I thought if there's an image in everyone's head about what a pirate is, then I thought that I would write/draw about the process of the boy getting there. But it's not like I dislike eye patches. So in the final scenes of One Piece, there is one pirate who appears with an eye patch. I'm itching to draw this character. And accompanying this message is a sketch of one Monkey D. Luffy wearing an eye patch. Quite possibly the only official artwork in the entirety of One Piece media in general that features an eye patch. Now, of course, this doesn't necessarily guarantee that Luffy is the character destined to don the patch, but I would say that the implication is pretty incredibly strong. The idea that the whole of One Piece is Oda's take on the journey of how a stereotypical pirate comes to wear an eye patch. And I would personally love that. If when everything was said and done, Luffy did look like the classic stereotypical pirate, eye patch and everything. However, the key takeaway here is that this eye patch will not be showcased until the very final scenes of the series. So if anything, this could be an event that occurs after the final war. For example, in the ensuing battle, Luffy's eye becomes wounded beyond all recovery, so he starts wearing an eye patch because it's Luffy and he thinks that it is fun and cool. Furthermore, he'll also get a peg leg, some golden teeths, and even a pet southbird to carry on his shoulder, thus becoming the ultimate pirate guy. And not only that, but because he's the pirate king by this point, that would then start a fashion trend around the world. Sort of like how Zoro's three-sword style has inspired an entire generation of students at Shimotsuki Village to take up Santoryu. And the more I think about it, the more I love it. The idea that One Piece is just the story of how stereotypical pirates were created and how the eye patch became the most common pirate accessory in history. story. It's all because of one rubber goofball. And all of that theoretical wankery aside, I just love this sketch of Luffy with an eye patch so much. I've never been a big fan of like the typical Yahara piratey designs, which is one of the many reasons why One Piece was so appealing to me, because it didn't have a whole lot of that. But I have to say, Luffy pulls this off pretty damn well. We do have another piece of finality to work through though, and this one is all about devil fruits. It's become clear that this is certainly not going to happen during Wano, but we do have another future event to consider, which is the explanation of devil fruits. So this is another fairly old comment that only tends to get brought up every now and then, but in the SBS of volume 48, Oda made the following statement about devil fruits. For more detail, you'll just have to wait for a certain professor to make his appearance in the story and explain exactly what the devil fruits really are. Ellipses, eventually. And given that he stated this in volume 48 and we are now at volume 100, the eventually was definitely appropriate. And of course it's also implied that the certain professor is Dr. Vegapunk, because at the time we didn't really know of any others, and to be perfectly honest, we still kind of don't. I mean, I suppose several other genius level scientists have popped up over the years, like say Caesar, Judge, Queen, but none of them seem to have Vegapunk's knack for understanding fictional fruit. Although to be fair, Queen does kind of look like a fruit, and I would call him a very stripy cantaloupe. But I bring up all of this because it's important to note that our final saga won't all be big fighty fights. There's also going to be a section of the story containing the greatest quantity of info dumpage that we've ever experienced. And not just stuff about devil fruits from Vegapunk, but also the myriad of other mysteries like the Void Sentry and all of the fun stuff that comes equipped, like ancient weapons and various joy people. All of which is to say, it is incredibly difficult to predict how long One Piece has remaining, because there's a lot to consider. Firstly, Wano, you need to end. And even though it does look like we're getting close, there's an awful lot to do. And if we're talking about some sort of final war, then going by Marineford precedent, that event in and of itself will take more than a year to publish. And we're obviously not going to dive into it straight after Wano. Because when I say final saga, I mean saga, not arc. The two are very different. A final saga can contain multiple arcs, which is probably the best measure we have actually. So for example, our most recent saga, the Four Emperors saga, began with the Zou arc in 2015 and it is ending soon, so that's what, 5 to 6 years? My suspicion is that the moment Wano ends is when we can activate that 5-year timeline that was announced 2 years ago. Because unless Eiichiro Oda decides to rather seriously speedrun the rest of One Piece, I don't see us getting through a final saga in less than 5 years. Now I could be wrong. I am not some sort of Australian prophet man, but we do know that Oda has been perpetually wrong on this particular topic. So in this very rare and specific case, I would be more inclined to trust the words of a strange Australian man on the internet, rather than the actual author of the series. And to check out an Australian man rambling more about fictional pirates, here is another video that you are guaranteed to enjoy, because there's always more to learn, explore, and experience with this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.